I could never in my wildest nightmares have ever imagined the horrors that could plague even the most simple of life enjoyments. The darkness that could invade any world, whether it be real or fictional. It all started the day me and my girlfriend were talking about video games we used to play growing up, and games that we used to enjoy. Over the years of my childhood, I have collected several games pertaining to several different consoles, but we both found the topic of the Nintendo 64 to be the most fun. So that day, we decided to pick up one from my uncle's video game store, and perhaps even pick up one of the greatest Nintendo 64 titles, Super Mario 64. Now when we got there, it took some time and a lot of browsing, but we were able to find the game after about an hour or so in several bins. He had placed throughout the store. The only copy had it appeared. As well as that, we had found an N64. The very last one that he had in stock, ironically. And the best part about it was, he gave it to us for free. He told me that it had been bought and returned nearly 15 times since it came into his possession, and now he was just looking to get rid of it. He also told me that, ironically, the game was always returned with it, as well as they always seemed to be brought together. He had heard that something was wrong with one or the other, and that some people even went as far as to tell him that they were evil, made in hell, things like that. Seeing as how we only heard the story from 3 out of 15 customers, I brushed it off as just some hysterical story told by people who decided they simply didn't want to keep the system. An excuse, if you will. And gave him $20 for Super Mario 64. Cheap jerk gave me the N64 for free though. We went back home after being gone for about an hour and a half. When I got home, I laid the system by my living room TV and started to rummage through old boxes where I kept all sorts of old games, ranging from classic Atari games to the ever popular Dreamcast. It was actually sort of strange because in these boxes I found that I owned every major console, except for an N64. Well, until now anyways. I pulled out my box with all of the N64 games in it and began to dig through it. I found games like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, as well as its sequel Majora's Mask, and 2 Castlevania titles for the system itself, Castlevania 64, Legacy of Darkness, and so on. Then it was time to hook it up. After everything was set up, my girlfriend decided that she wanted to put in Super Mario 64 first. And after some effort, the game was ready to go. "It's a me, Mario," it called out in its upbeat pitch. My girlfriend decided to mess with Mario's face a bit before finally pressing start on a purple controller and the screen transitioned to the file select screen. There were some files already on the game. In fact, all 4 slots were filled, each having just started the game because there were no stars or any file. So we started deleting them. After we deleted one file, number 1, however, the game froze, and there was a deafening screech coming from our TV speakers, and it sounded almost as if someone was screaming from the game itself. My girlfriend turned off the system after about 5 seconds. After a moment or so she flipped it back on, and we went back to the file select screen. Strangely enough, the file that we had deleted on file 1 was back, and this time it had 66 stars, even though previously it had none. So once more she deleted it, and again it made a loud screeching sound. This time I would swear to God that it was louder than before. to the point where we both fell back while covering our ears, as I was closer to the plug than the system itself, I jerked it out of the wall. This time, before we bothered trying, I took the game out of the system and took it into the kitchen. It turned out that it was really dusty, which explained, at least to me, why the game was reacting the way it was. Although it was still weird. After cleaning it with a Q-tip, I took it back into the living room. I handed it to her. She plugged the console back into the wall and we were ready to go. By now it was getting dark out. There was no light in the room and we couldn't plug in our lamp because the system and TV took up the outlet. So we were forced to play in the dark. For me, something didn't feel right, because for some reason I was filled with a sense of nervousness that I could not quite explain. I shook it off and turned on the system. When we were back to the file select screen, each file that was there previously was gone, oddly enough. Which to me confirmed my suspicion that it was just a dirty game messing up. So we started a new game on file 1 and the screen lagged like it were a CD or something. But after about a minute, it started up normally. We got the opening scene with Peach inviting Mario to the castle, and the camera as usual, following the pathway to the giant green pipe which Mario leaped out of. She was in control of the game and took Mario directly to the castle. When she opened the door to the castle, there was a prolonged pause which made me nervous. Once again, the loud screeching that ruined our game previously shot through our ears, and it felt like glass was jabbed into my eardrums. We were both overwhelmed because of the terrible screaming. I could not even think to reach the system to the plug. After about 30 seconds, it stopped, and we looked up to the TV. Mario had somehow found his way to Big Boo's haunt, as the mansion that had never appeared this creepy when I used to play it loomed over Mario's head ominously. What the hell? I said as I regained myself. My girlfriend was still getting herself together and it took her a minute to process what was going on. I took the controller now and took a good look at the mansion itself. It was nothing like what it was supposed to be. It had castle-like features actually, and was covered totally in blood and rust. The sky had black and red colors about it, complemented by the black clouds that seemed to pass by in an instant. I noticed that a new tower was now coming out of the mansion, and upon getting a good look at it, I noticed several figures hanging from it. The whole screen faded to white, like it does when in the entrance room when you look up, and the skylight then go to the wall that you obtained a wing cap in. When Mario reappeared, he had somehow made it on top of the tower, on a platform that went all the way around. The sky had a gloomy look to it as each cloud passed over the tower, as dark as the night sky, and lightning began to rule the sky and illuminate the clouds in its thunderous wake. I tried for the first time to move Mario forward, but a bolt of lightning stopped the movement that I was willing to make at the moment. I dropped the controller and my heart began to race. I didn't know what to expect, and I could see by the look in my girlfriend's eyes the strong sense of paranoia had overcome her, because I constantly noticed her looking back behind us in the shadows that covered the room. With hesitation, I took the controller in hand and moved Mario forward about a foot or so before something fell from the top of the screen and the camera zoomed in on it.